Is there a motion to approve this resolution adopting the 2011-2012 fiscal year budget?
Move to adopt.
Is there, all right. Any public comment on this motion before the commission? Hearing none, any commission comments, questions, or discussion? Commissioner Harper.
I would just like to entertain some discussion in relationship to some of the suggested items that could be cut yet from the budget. I believe all the commissioners have had an opportunity to look at the email that our treasurer sent out in relationship to some of those suggested cuts. I would want to point out to the commission, with the extra $5,000 that we're going to see in our charges in service reimbursements, that still puts us at a $57,000 deficit, which the city manager addressed. And I believe that while we all recognize that the budget is a plan, we don't run our households planning to be in the hole. And I would like us to take a hard look at what we can do to help bring that deficit back down. I recognize that in the past we have operated with deficit budgets, and I certainly realize that we could continue that practice into the future. I don't think it's a good idea. And I think most governmental entities are realizing you don't want to operate with a deficit budget, and they're wrestling with that. We used to, in the past, automatically put 3% raises for all salaried employees. We don't do that anymore. So we have made changes to the budget in the past. We've made policy changes. We now have a policy in relationship to what our fund balance should be, which we're not going to meet according to our projected fund balance. So I'm always interested in compromise. I think that that's certainly something that we can do. But I've presented $15,500 worth of proposed cuts that could be added to this particular budget proposal. And with those dollars in mind, and with the anticipated $42,000, that would bring us to just about what the negative balance is.
Before we begin the discussion, I'd ask the treasurer, is that an accurate statement?
I just want to clarify, the 40, excuse me, the 42,000 is overall for the overall budget. It's not entirely for the general fund.
Okay.
So,
so it could be 30,000. That might affect the general fund versus the overall.
It's probably
budget.
half or a little bit more than half of that figure, but it's not all general fund savings.
Okay.
And then the fund balance resolution policy that Commissioner Harper refers to says that we will strive to meet that policy, which is 2 months of expenditures for the general fund. And when we developed the policy a year or so ago, we put the word strive in there for a very good reason, because we knew that we couldn't meet it immediately. And we do strive, and it is a good policy to have 2 months worth of expenditures in a fund balance, and we are striving toward that. And she is correct, we have not met that yet, but we're very close.
You know, having worked on a number of budgets, and yes, fund balance was back different prior to when I retired, but that was before Streetscape came about, and general fund supplemented some things, and there were other things that general fund supplemented, and after that point in time, and the money goes out, it takes a while to build it up. I don't think it's a bad thing as to what happened to the fund balance. I think everybody can appreciate what has happened to our beautiful downtown and the other areas that the money was used for. That's why you build up extra fund balance in your general fund, so that when something does come to pass, you have the money to do it. It isn't any different than a decade ago when we had $2 point some million and renovated the entire city hall and didn't borrow a dime. It's the same kind of thing. And it's gonna take a number of years now, I think, for it to creep back up again. But in this day and age, in this economy, for a city the size of Big Rapids to sit here and have a fund balance of $1 million, it's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we even have millage that we could assess that we don't do. And I don't even know if there's any city in the state of Michigan that can say that. I highly doubt if there's a township that can say that. I think they're all maxed out. So we set a lot differently than a lot of other municipalities do. And I do not personally feel bad at a projected fund balance of $1,074,000. It's very close to $1.2 million. You know, maybe I would say something differently if it was under $1 million, but I also know from years past that you always end up more than what you think you're going to end up with. That's just the way that it happens. Mostly because the treasurer scares the weebie-jeebies out of you the last 60 days of the fiscal year and threatens you one inch of your life. And then after that is done, everybody starts watching their pennies, and there always seems to be a little bit of income that comes in somehow that you don't anticipate. And I would guess that your income tax is still going to come in higher than what you have it anticipated at, because things have turned around some. So the short answer is I'm very comfortable with what we have in front of us.
If the public was as alarmed, I think we would be hearing that, but we haven't. And that's been true, I think, of every public hearing, and even off the record, no one has approached me to say the city of Big Rapids should discontinue support for homeowner grants, historic preservation, the Festival of the Arts. And I think the public looks to the commission as a policy-making body and other actions we take, but also in the budget to set a tone for what we feel not just the present, but the future for the city would be. And I don't think the city of Big Rapids' future would be as optimistic and promising if we were to cut things such as contributions to the Festival of the Arts. That's been, I think, a wonderful success, not just for the city, but for the university and patrons of the arts. And I've been an advocate for Pure Michigan. I think we should have approved it then. I think we need to consider it in our budget now. It is an item that we can take up and vote on at a later time. But even in the 9 and 10 news, Pure Michigan campaign gets a $3 million boost. 28 communities around the state doubling their contributions from 2010, including Mackinac Island and Traverse City, which each contributed $500,000. And I'm asking that the commission consider $2,500 for something that benefits not just Mecosta County, but the city of Big Rapids immensely. So the budget does set policy decisions. They are acts of discretion. But again, a budget doesn't need to be mean. It should be lean, but we have to look at, as well at other attributes that go above and beyond maybe the streets and things that are very valuable, indispensable. So given the time that's been spent, it's now June 13th. We should have adopted at the first meeting in May. I'm comfortable with the budget as presented. If you do a roll call, please.
Anderson?
Yes.
Harper?
No.
James?
Yes.
Rothstein?
Yes.
Warba?
Yes.